Wolfpack, what's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves here with your week 6 rankings update. Cannot believe how fast we are going this season. Breakneck pace. Every week it's a new bag of COVID, whatever mystery we're dealing with. So shit, it's just been completely wild. But we are here to work you through all of it. And we love getting you started for your week 6 preparation. Even though there's a game on tonight, Tuesday night, insanity, there's still got to start looking ahead to week 6. Most of you have had your week settled. If not, best of luck tonight. Hope you get your wins. But we got to start looking ahead. It gets more and more crucial as the bye weeks hit. This week, we're dealing with not the Patriots anymore. We're supposed to be, but they'll be playing against the Broncos. Now we got New Orleans, Las Vegas, the Raiders, and Seattle Seahawks. So some pretty high-powered offenses, some big weapons like the number 1 overall running back right now, Alvin Kamara, DK Metcalf, the number 1 receiver in fantasy points right now. A bunch of people out that you're going to have some bye week fill-ins for. So let's get down to the rankings, figure out my favorite streamers, who I'm higher on, lower on. You can get all your sit starts answered. I'll go position by position, then kind of interact with you guys as we go. As always, any likes, comments, shares are greatly appreciated. If you're in any Facebook groups, you're willing to drop this in on Facebook, YouTube, the thumbs up button. Of course, if you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have your support on any of the channels. It means a lot. So give us a thumbs up wherever you're at. Means the world that you're even here with us. And let's get these rankings answered and started to sort out for week 6. Again, week fucking 6. Can't believe we are already here. What's going on, Mitch? I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, brother? Sean Miller, I like you too, man. Thanks for tuning in. Great to see you. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen you. Ugo, good to see you too, man. Thank you for coming on in, and let's get it going, baby. So at the top, Pat Mahomes seems to be the play. Let's look at quarterbacks, points allowed here. Obviously, the Falcons, the best matchup facing the Vikings this week, getting, over 30 fucking fantasy points per week. Insanity. But the Seahawks not far behind. They will not be playing this week. Chargers, I believe, are also on bye, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check that real quick. Herbert, yeah, they're on bye as well. So some of the best matchups for your quarterbacks will not be in the play this week. Saints, 3 of the top 4 matchups will not be in action this week. Let me know if you can see this, or if you, if you need me to zoom in at all. I hope this data is clear to you. Washington football team, definitely one to target. They are facing the Giants, I believe, this week. So ultimately, Daniel Jones, can you really trust him? Probably not. Yeah, facing the Giants there. Then you got the Jaguars, obviously pretty horrendous. We just saw the Texans, rather, have a great day against Jacksonville. You get Detroit, so Matthew Stafford probably going to be looking pretty damn good. And in terms of the bad matchups to face, where does Buffalo rank in terms of quarterbacks here? Buffalo Bills, where are we at? So one of the tougher matchups, it would seem, although that might just be in terms of yards filtered right here. No, yeah, Bills one of the better matchups, rather. Browns a great matchup as well. So you can just see here in terms of fantasy points, DraftKings a little bit different there. But you'll get the Cam Newton probably back. Ultimately, a lot of juicy matchups still in play this week, even with the Raiders, the Saints, the Chargers, and the Seahawks on bye. We still get plenty of those. So we'll bounce back and forth. Looking at some of the tougher ones, surprising, the Giants have been great against quarterbacks and just passing in general. Unfortunately, their offense is not matched with that defense. Impressively improved. The Bears, the Colts, both very stymieing to passing attacks and just defenses in general. Bucks, one of the best defenses in the league. Panthers, probably the biggest shock on this list, how good they've been against the pass, given they have pretty much no talent and lost James Bradbury. That's who's helped turn around the Giants. You'd think that they would ultimately go down, but nope, not at all. They've been crushing it this year. Steelers, a little bit more generous than we've come accustomed to. So let's dive in now and look through the rankings. As you guys can see here, what website is that? It's the rotostreetjournal.com. Roto, R-O-T-O, Street Journal, like Wall Street Journal, but Roto. Check it out. Zach Hansel, thanks for asking. Good to know, Sean Miller, even though you haven't been on the broadcast, you're checking it out. I love it. Dave Mock's telling you to shut up. Dave, you can get out of here because Sean Miller is my boy. We love you, Sean. Do not listen to Dave Mock. Let's get it. Hugo, let's get it, Mitchell. let's start going. Herbert may have won me this week. That's what I like to hear. That was one of our better calls this week. Jimmy Bridges, great to see you too. Need some help, Wolf. Well, let's hear your quandaries and let's get these rankings all set here. I got to have Kyler number one. I mean, Dallas is so bad. I'm surprised to not see them in the top 5 here. You know, where are the Cowboys on this list in terms of fantasy points allowed? Yeah, right there in the top 10 at least, as expected. They're a joke. Getting worse and worse by the week. Obviously, an unfortunate injury. So that's the one thing is, will Andy Dalton be able to keep those shootout scripts we've been seeing week in and week out for the Cowboys? I have my doubts, but I also, he's about as good of a backup situation as you could have asked for. So I love Kyler, my number one play of the week. Mahomes coming in right below you. The Bills, I love that game to shoot out. You got Josh Allen against Kansas City as well. One of the better, they've improved, but we just saw Derek Carr bomb them for 3 touchdowns. So I like this as my kind of big 3 here. And then you're getting into Aaron Rodgers has played so lights out. Matchup really hasn't mattered. Weapons haven't mattered, but Tampa Bay is going to be his toughest test yet. Still think we can bump him up a little bit. Lamar Jackson just has not been Lamar of old. So ultimately, I bump Aaron Rodgers, who's just absolutely crushing it above Lamar at this point. Big Ben getting a top 8 matchup for this week. Deshaun Watson, though, as well, I can't bump too many above Lamar. Even though he's struggling, that upside is so crazy each and every week. I am going to have Cousins higher, 8 overall, definitely bumping him up against Atlanta, 30 points potential. So I like that. Detroit, I'm going to bump Stafford above Minshew. I think that game has some sneaky shootout upside, and that's what you're looking for with your quarterbacks. Fuck Dave Mock. I like it. Keep that trash talk coming, guys. So Minshew just a little bit lower. I do think Matty Ice, especially if you get Julio back, could be in for a rebound. So I'm not jumping ship quite yet. So a little bit lower on Minshew, not crazy low. I'm gonna bump Cam though up into this kind of high end QB1. Denver is towards the top of this list, 4th most points to quarterbacks on the season. He should be back, Cam Newton. So I'm going to have him, I'd say maybe the higher of the list, 8 spots higher than the ECR right now, at 6 overall. Of course, we will adjust as needed. I think every week it's Ryan Tannehill getting disrespected. The man just balls out. We're going to see it tonight against the Bills. I think he's going to put up his points. And then we're going to see it next week against Houston. The quarterback 3 since he took over last year, it just gets it done. Nobody wants to accept that. So I like Tannehill a bit more than the ECR. He's fallen onto a bunch of waiver wires too, folks. So someone worth checking in on. Brady looked like trash, but Green Bay's secondary is nothing special. So this could be one of those shootout games. I'm actually seeing, Mike Clay say here, shootout potential, Tampa Bay, Green Bay could get the old men just going back and forth there. Would love to see it. Not a great spot for some of your favorite streamers in terms of Joe Burrow, Indy, the 2nd fewest points, Chicago, the fewest. So give me Fitzmagic above so many of these guys. Guess I'm a little lower on Minshew for this week, especially if Chark is out. He's just going to continue to plummet down the list. We saw what happened to that offense. He suffered that ankle injury. And last time we saw that, it was not good. So what was that, Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins? They just smoked Minshew. So I'm a little lower on Minshew than the ECR is right now. Higher on Fitzmagic, probably my favorite streamer of the week. As Jimmy Bridges is calling for, Herbert on bye, you need your streamer. I would say Fitzmagic. 3 straight 25-point days for Fitzmagic. One of them coming against San Fran, who's supposed to be one of the better defenses in the league. Kirk Cousins, though, if he's out there, Atlanta, pure shootout potential there. So I like that a lot. I do like, where's Andy Dalton on this list? Do I have to add him in here? Andy? Am I just overlooking him? Where is Dalton? No, apparently he's somewhere on there. So let me find Andy. He's going to be one of my other favorite streamers. Oh, there you are, 18. So right under my nose. I like Dalton. I would say I like Fitzmagic again the most. Tannehill if he's out there. Kirk Cousins, some guys that I'm seeing out there. Jimmy Bridges for streaming quarterbacks. So I would go Cousins, then Tannehill, then Fitz. Tannehill and Fitz being pretty neck and neck too. And then if those guys are gone, you could look to Andy Dalton, who's out there in just about every single league at this point is where I'm lying. And then it gets pretty bad. Baltimore, not quite the bad matchup it used to be. So I'll bump Wentz up just a couple spots. We can get rid of Mullins. Stidham should not hopefully have to go this week. Darnold or Flacco, we'll find out, but it won't matter really. So we can just kind of get rid of these quarterbacks that aren't going to be playing ultimately. Let's add a tier here to like the last guys that I'd want to stream. I don't really want Bridgewater after, despite that offense really starting to take off. I'd have him in over Burrow, sure, at this point, but that's about it. Don't want Mayfield, the broken ribs. Rivers, despite the juicy matchup, not into that. Kyle Allen was running around a bit. Looked like he had some upside, so maybe I'll bump him up. Maybe Daniel Jones could finally find it. I mean, didn't get it done against the Cowboys, so how can we trust that? But that's kind of how I'm sliding these guys in. Now, if Drew Lock plays, I would have him in above, Bakes, Foles. Garoppolo should rebound, I hope. But that's about where I'll settle in for my quarterbacks. Let's put Flacco in a tier alone because of how just goddamn. Yeah, Phillip Rivers can go in there with him. How about that? There we go. That's how I'll sort through the quarterbacks so far. We, of course, will touch base and update throughout the week. But that's my initial gut reactions to him. And as this is loading, let's get to some of your questions, my man. Fukugo, F-U-C Hugo. Drake or Edmonds, I have both. I have them both too, man. Let's find out right now. The talent continues to scream Drake. To scream Edmonds, right? The more production, the better usage in terms of receiving. But he just isn't. He's getting so much less of the work. Drake's still in on over 60% of the snaps. That got closer. I think Edmonds worked his way in on like 40% this week. But Drake, 18 carries to the 8 total touches we saw from Edmonds. I wish Edmonds would just take it over and make this headache go away. But until he does, it's hard to recommend Edmonds over Drake when one of them seeing 70% of the work and the other seeing 30, no matter how much more he does. Oh, it's a tricky balance, Hugo. I wish I didn't even have to deal with it. I'm with you there. Absolutely with you there. What's good, 909? My man, shouting out the Wolf Pack. Love to have you here as always. Mitchell Chavez, Juju, Lockett, Cooper crap the bed for me this past week. That does suck. 3 absolute studs. None of them hit 6 points. That was horrible. Is Claypool worth picking up over Brown or Higgins? I'd have him over Higgins just slightly. Maybe even over John Brown. Yeah, that upside. 4 touchdowns, 45 fantasy points. And no team evaluates the receivers better than Steelers. So to me, it looks like a souped up, non-baggage type of Martavis Bryant is my feelings on Claypool. It's pretty crowded, right? James Washington's playing in there. Deontay Johnson shouldn't just disappear, nor should Juju. But Tomlin rides his hot hands. That's one coach I will give some credit to. When he sees a guy performing, he's going to pepper him. We saw it in the game flow. He knew Claypool was dominating, went to him 11 times, 35% market share. So we already saw that happen. And I don't think it just disappears from the game plan, Claypool, after he did nothing but dominate with his work. So I'm all about Claypool. I would rather have him over both those guys, to be honest. And I would bid about 30 to 40%, depending on my desperation levels for a wide receiver. I would give up my number one waiver priority, if I have it right now, to secure Claypool. He'd be right before my man Robert Moreno here. Alex Madison, my number 2 play on the waiver wires this week. I do think it will pay off. You always have to hold on to this guy, that ultimate handcuff with benefits. But you're about to get a date with the Falcons. I just wrote about it on rotostreetjournal.com. You can check it out, just how highly he's going to rank for me. We'll see it right here live in a second. But no team has given up more receiving yards, more receptions, or more receiving touchdowns to backs than the Falcons. And it's not like that's his calling card, Alexander Madison, but he certainly can get it done in there. So to me, a definite mid-range RB1 this week. Definitely worth getting in there. You think Julio and Adams play? I do think Adams, I think he probably could have played Monday night just a couple weeks ago, but it's one of those things, Rodney, where it's similar to Cook this week. The bye just lined up perfectly. So why not get 2 weeks of rest instead of forcing him out there? He tweeted out before the game, I feel good. Don't know why they're holding me out. I think you're going to get a full Adams. Julio is definitely trickier right now. They clearly need him So maybe he'll gut it out, but I also could see him just getting traded to them, taking the rest of the season as well. Caleb, I'm going to answer yours, and then I'm going to get back to my running backs here. Can you advise me on this standard? I give DJ Moore and Damien Harris. I get Tyler Boyd and Lev Bell. Good or bad trade? I think good, because I think Tyler Boyd's the best player in that trade. DJ Moore close. Harris looked very solid, 100 yards in his first NFL debut. But that Patriots backfield is always going to be a mess. And I like him. I think he could be a low-end RB2 flex play, because he's going to be that big back. Just shows so much more in 1 week than we've ever seen from Sony, except for that playoff run. He has the three down chops to work in some screens, make the offense a little less predictable than they are when they have like Sony versus James White, right? All that being said, what if Bell gets traded and goes to a monster team, right? That could happen. That's within the range of possibilities. So I like it. I don't love it though, Caleb. It's not like, and typically I don't do a deal unless I'm like, yep, I'm clearly winning. It's a fencer. I think you win, but it's not a great trade where I'm just like, man, you are just dominating that one. Keep your questions, comments, and of course, likes and shares coming in, guys. It's greatly appreciated as we rip here. So let's go to the running backs now, the points against the run. And this tool I'm showing you guys is Pro Football Reference. I think it's the best just because they show you just exactly how many yards, TDs, how's the stats coming in. So that's important to kind of pick apart matchups a little bit. Receiving backs, like we just said with Atlanta, is some good, sexy stuff. So we know Madison, especially on DraftKings, should be a very nice stream in PPR leagues, DraftKings, things of that nature. We know the Panthers are giving up the most points to running backs. We'll be sure to attack that. Has Mike Davis as well, just on the other side. So Chicago, maybe this is the week I actually go to Krispy Kreme's, fucking David Montgomery, the empty calories. We'll find out. I think Derrick Henry is in that spot against Houston, the most rushing yards on the ground, fourth most points to fantasy. They're just getting, look at this. They're almost 200 more yards more allowed. I guess the Bengals are close there too, but plenty of rushing touchdowns. They are getting just destroyed, the Texans. Arizona's also nothing special, in particular, giving up some good receiving volume to back. So I think Zeke, especially with this offense getting molded around him, could be your number one. I'm going to prefer Zeke here. Now we're up into Hilaire. And as much as I love the guy, where are the touchdowns? Buffalo, nothing scary. Let's kind of just filter this real quick in terms of fantasy points allowed. Where are the Bills on here? So yeah, actually much more generous through the air than they are to running backs. A bottom 10 matchup here. As you can see, Broncos surprisingly very good. Only 12.1 points per game. You knew the Steelers were. Ravens, Colts, San Fran. No surprises there. Seattle did just get destroyed. They're on bye week anyways. Jets a generous matchup, though, for your Dolphins. Myles Gaskin stealing that goal line role now. Probably one of the biggest season-long risers, Myles Gaskin, of this week. Raiders held Hilaire in check. That's kind of frustrating. So I don't think Hilaire can be your number 3 guy this week. Let's keep going here and find out who could be above him. I think Kareem Hunt should be above him. I think James Robinson's in a nice bounce-back spot this week. The fumble. I think the team will go back to him. They benched him, kind of sent the message there. I'd rather have Davis just, again, every week RB1 until we see otherwise. And the Bears, as good as they are against the pass, we saw Rojo running all over these folks, Ronald Jones. So they're right in the middle of the pack, and that's where you beat this team. So I think Mike Davis continues to exploit that mismatch. I think James Conner, and every week RB1 until he goes down. The Browns, in terms of matchup, just right in this middle of the pack. Where are they at? Browns. Yeah, so a little bit, not quite as generous as the Bears, but right there in the middle of the pack. I think Conner, just an every week kind of smash. I would have it above Hilaire. I think Jonathan Taylor keeps scoring and hasn't done a whole ton, but Cincinnati, the second most yards on the ground right now, a great spot for him. So I'll rank these guys as such. Mixon, what I'm seeing is they're going down and the guy is still getting fed in the receiving game. That's huge. So India, a tough matchup for sure, but I love what I'm seeing. I'm going to bump Madison up. Call me the wishful owner, but I would have him in my top 7 this week. And I think, Krispy Kreme's has to lead off your 12. I'm going to bump Gurley just below him. And Gurley's been getting it done. I mean, Gurley looks great. We can't have Aaron Jones this low. I get the matchup's not great for Tampa Bay, but come on, it's Aaron Jones. The dude can blow up at any given point. How good are the Bucs? I think that's like a narrative from last year more than anything too. David Montgomery put up some decent totals against him last week. Yeah, nothing scary about the Bucs running wise. I mean, looks like bottom 10 on paper, but if David Montgomery can put up 20 fantasy points, Aaron Jones can certainly do so as well. From here, I love Mostert and the Rams, like 28th in DVOA versus the run. Where do they rank in terms of fantasy points allowed? One of the tougher matchups, it would seem, but I don't know that I buy that. I have Mostert. He's a beast. But again, these guys are just playing so well too. So Ronald Jones in a smash spot. Miles Sanders did do great against Pittsburgh, one of the toughest matchups you could have, but came down to like a 78-yard touchdown run. Otherwise, it would have been a very questionable day. So I like that. I guess you can lump in David Johnson. Drake should be higher, but clearly can't trust him all that much. I think Gibson, despite an underwhelming performance, game flow should not get out of control against Washington, and that's what's killing him is when they get down big. That's when McKissick comes in and becomes a receiving hog. But I don't think that happens this week. So I'll bump Gibson up. I mean, Freeman, Mark Ingram can just get the fuck out of here. Why is Gaskin this low? I think he's got to be, up here above Gibson, like top 17. How a healthy scratch, Jordan Howard, getting the goal line touches and he plowed in on one of them. That's huge for Gaskin. Legitimately a 70% snap player already. And now he's not going to have the vulture. That's huge. That's absolutely enormous for his value. He has to be top 17 every week. That's way too low for this guy. 30s. Come on. And McKinnon above him. McKinnon's god awful at this point. Just get the fuck out of my face, McKinnon. Any fucking Ram, how could you have any Rams in your top 50 at this point? It's the biggest nightmare. 3-headed just every single week. They're all good backs. It's a good offense, but there's nothing dependable coming out of there. So no, those guys got to get out. I could see, where is he at? Where's Le'Veon Bell? There he is. I think Le'Veon Bell's in an interesting spot where they're trying to trade him. That means showcase it, baby. The Dolphins, one of the more generous teams to running backs, Miami Dolphins. Oh, stop that shit. Here we go. 22 points per game to backs, 6 touchdowns on the ground, 28 receptions is definitely top half. So Dolphins can be had on the ground. So I like both Gaskins and Bell a bit more than the ECR. This will be kind of like my last starters. I think Melvin Gordon needs a little bit more love. I get Lindsey will be back, but the Pats without that linebackers of last year are not nearly the difficult matchup that we've come to expect from them. Hendy, Akers looked good. And I really do think they want him to get the majority of the work. So after this top 27, with these bye weeks, you can start to see this gets bad. I think Adrian Peterson should be up here. The Jaguars giving up, that monster day to Joe Mixon. Not that AP will do Joe Mixon things, but if Detroit can get up big, they just seem hell-bent on feeding Peterson, which blows my mind, but it is what it is. Swift should be higher than your Ravens guys, as can Duke Johnson. Supposed to get some more involvement this week. just looking down here in terms of like who could be some decent plays. I think White, 10 touches his first game back. Again, Ingram out. Get out. Edwards out. Like no Ravens. But again, you can see kind of where I'm dropping them down to. There's not much left here. I think Burkhead's kind of useless now that we have James White back. He had that one monster game called as well. Boone can get a little bit of an upgrade. I'd rather have Boone than fucking Ingram, probably. Horrible, but true. I think Harris needs a bump up. Denver, a tougher matchup again, as we saw, but above Malcolm Brown. Like, give me these guys that have clear roles. I'm surprised at how low some of these guys are. I think Gordon belongs in this tier. Probably above Le'Veon Bell. In this like upside RB2 low end 1 type of tier. In fact, I'll bump Bell to this tier. More like the RB2. It gets ugly pretty fast in there though. Freeman gets the volume, so I'll keep him in there. James White, yeah, I mean that's about right? Like. And then you're getting into some pretty ugly territory. So, like, who down here? Is there any Hail Marys that I love? No. I mean, this is just all get out of here. We'll update that later. Removing all those names, as you can see, can be a chore. Zach Moss, again, above any Ravens. Can't trust a Raven right now. Can't trust a Raven. I'll sift through this and see if there's any more garbage that deserves your attention. But after this top 28 or so, 34 is really 35. Duke Johnson, maybe the last possible. I'll have J.D. McKissick just for all that receiving work a little bit higher. I can't have Malcolm Brown, the clear third. Alrighty. So that's running backs. While this is loading, I'm going to also pull up points against wide receivers and get back to any questions you guys have as we're talking here. Keep them coming, guys. I will get to them all. Losing Dak was a bummer. Herbert on bye. Need a streamer. Oh, yeah, we covered that one for you, Jimmy. Do I drop Matt Ryan at this point if Cam's back? I'm not letting Herbert go. I'd rather have Herbert than Matt Ryan too. So, yeah, I mean, if you can trade him, go for it. But you're probably not getting a huge partner. So it depends on who's out there. But yes, he in your situation, he could be droppable. Agree. Thank you. I don't remember what it was about, but glad we're in agreement. Fook, Hugo. Cooks or Claypool? I'm going to go Claypool. Just a freak specimen. I'm all about it. That TD from Clyde hurt. It really did, didn't it? Should have happened. Offensive pass interference. What a joke. I have LOL. I have Derrick, Kareem, and Robinson for Zach Hensel. Pretty good backfield, as you can see. 3 straight top 10 guys for this week. Love a good stable, and that is a sexy-ass stable, Zach Hensel. Should I trade away Gibson and Debo for David Johnson? No, Noah. I feel like David Johnson gets slower by the week. He's not somebody I'm interested in going out and getting. No, thank you. Not at all. Even in PPR. Gibson's on the rise. And Debo, I didn't love that first performance, but if he gets back to what he was last year, you're looking at a guy we would have taken in round 5. So no, definitely not. Josh Kelly, disaster. Just ran into a good Saints D. I would say it's pretty much a disaster. He was the early down guy, so that kind of was encouraging, right? He ran with some power, got some receptions, but Justin Jackson looked a lot better. Robert Moreno. And he saw 20 touches. I'm going to be breaking down that backfield a little more depth later tonight. But that was not encouraging at all. So, yeah, I didn't like panic mode. I don't know, probably not. But, yeah, you can't be encouraged by any means, especially the fact that they just air it out at the goal line too. Vision assault, is it time to drop David Johnson? No. I mean, any running back getting that type of usage, unless you're in like a very shallow 8-man league, is pretty worth it. But put him in a trade, right? Package him up. Sell them high. 25, thanks for subscribing. Much appreciated. Up 16, and my opponent has Bills D. Going to be a close one, no doubt. But 16 from a D, I think you're in good shape. I don't want to jinx it, knocking on wood for you there, 25, but you should be in good shape. McKissick's on the wire. Should I grab him and drop Kelly or hold? I would hold, just in the sense of if that flips at some point. Jackson again, if Jackson's out there, I'd pick him up where I know. But otherwise, McKissick's McKissick. Is it full PPR? Maybe, but like Gibson, there will be a time where Gibson takes that whole thing over, is my opinion on that one. All righty, guys, let's get to our wide receivers here. Keep the questions coming, though. I will get to them all. We'll filter it by, clearly the Seahawks, the best matchup for receivers. They're on bye this week. We just saw Thielen destroy them. Cowboys up next. I mean, there's got to be nobody else but Hopkins. Honestly, it's even in a tier by himself. We just saw what he did to the Jets, who are somehow even better than the Cowboys. So yeah, Hopkins tier alone. Buffalo, though, Tre'Davious White has not been himself this year, or at least they maybe aren't shadowing. So the Bills are, middle of the pack defense. So I can see Hill having himself a good day. How do you go anyone but Thielen at 2, though, facing Atlanta, that joke defense? And then I think running it back with Ridley, those corners are just very suspect. So that's where I would kind of rank those guys. And I would cut this off right. Eventually, I'll cut that off right ahead of Cooper in terms of like the top end wide receivers. I like Mike Evans a little more than Cooper this week. Diggs is just a baller. How's Kansas City against wide receivers? I feel like they're one of the better teams, actually. Yeah, bottom 7 matchup as we see here. So one of the better teams for sure. Where's Atlanta? The Falcons. Oh, there they are. Okay. Vikings right up there. So yeah, like Ridley gonna go berserk this week. I would even maybe have like these guys kind of in a tier alone. Then Robinson, Carolina. I mean, Carolina's been surprisingly good, but Robinson's done an even tougher matchup. So I like that one for sure. I would say this tier. I think Terry doesn't have the quarterback play, though. I wouldn't have these Rams guys as high as they are. I would bump Terry. Well, wait a second. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he just gets it done. I would have Fuller above both those guys. Tennessee, he's going to smash that defense. And all the man coverage they run. Chark probably not going to go this week. I don't know if Brown gets Slay. If he does, that's not a great matchup. I mean, Anderson just every week should be a top 15 at worst. I would say A.J. Brown. We're going to watch him come back tonight and just smash. I'm just going to put him right in my top 10. Adams is playing, so let's get him right into the elite. As we're going here, Justin Jefferson, down game, but I don't buy that was he was so good those last 2. So I'll kind of cut this one off here. Let's see if there's anyone else that deserves to jump in there. I think Tyler Boyd does, despite the tough matchup. He's gotten done most weeks. I think Golladay against Jacksonville. I mean, why is that anything outside the top 11? I think Hardman needs a nice bump up here. Slayton, I mean, in every down, wide receiver 1. In the right matchups, what do you have? 120 and should have had a touchdown last week. So I love me some Slayton a bit more than the ECR here. I mean, the thing that the Steelers, they're good, but a little bit overrated as a defense right now. So I think Odell needs to be bumped up. Matthew asking Keenan. Well, they're on bye this week, big guy. So, and we'll see what that injury ends up bringing. I think Claypool, nothing fluky about that game. I do agree with this one. Crowder, Brody Roberts. He should be, right up here. Top 14. He's had 100 yards every game. Doesn't matter who his quarterback is. I think he's one of the most disrespected players in fantasy football, Crowder. Just an absolute target hog. I think he hasn't seen, less than 10 targets in a single game or less than 100 yards in a game. What's it going to take for us to treat him like the top 15 weekly option he is? Love me some Crowder. That's a great name to shout out there. TY can go sit on a fucking fist, so let's get him out of here. Again, I hate Juju compared to Claypool. If Chark plays, I'll bump him up a bit, but this is where we'll kind of toss him in. Deontay might be able to give it a go. I like Chenault a lot, though. I'm going to bump him. We're getting a little low on Moore here, but I don't hate it. I mean, Juju has been pretty good against the Browns, but I'll put Juju above there. LaVisca above Moore. It's not as crazy as I think it might sound. Fella saying Crowder needs to stay healthy to get his respect. Well, he's healthy right now, so when he's out there, he needs his respect. No Tre'Davious White, how do you feel about A.J. Brown? He's going to blow up. He's such a ridiculous talent. I think he reminds us why we were all taking him in round 3 and 4 this year. I would say that seems about fair. I like Higgins. Right about there. John Brown more than Gallup. I'm not a big Gallup fan. I know that Dalton went to him the most yards when Dalton took over, but 2 of those came in the last 2 plays of the game, right? So to me, that was more about the matchup and something to exploit than it was this ridiculous chemistry between the two. I'm bumping up Kirk. I'm not buying Landry. Kirk seems to be getting it done. Why is Parker this low? Some of these blow my mind. I'd say Parker's got to be top 17. Edelman against the Denver defense, that's real bad. I don't think Hardman should be above Higgins necessarily. But right there seems about right. What other crazy freaking low guys are on here? I think Cooks. I mean, 160 in a TD is no joke, right? And they use so much more play action, which is already a big departure from Bill O'Brien. So Cooks gets a little bit of a bump up here. Let me just kind of cut this tier off. I mean, maybe we can keep Gallup and Landry in here. Anybody that belongs in there with them? No one I'm seeing. Maybe Fulgham? Certainly over fucking TY and shitty-ass Debo. Who would you rather have half PPR rest of the season, A.J. Brown or Gibson? I'd go Gibson, even though I love A.J. Brown, even though I love Gibson, is what I meant to say. I feel more confident Brown's going to reach that ceiling than Gibson. The fact that McKissick's as involved as he is kind of pisses me off. Eventually, Gibson should be that every down guy, and it's going to be a beautiful thing when it happens, but can't keep banking on it. What are you doing with Deontay Johnson? I mean, I have him right here, but injured and keeps getting knocked out. I'd probably bump him below Cooks at this point. That's what I would say. Right around there, rip picks. Judy, I don't think our pasty, the Pats, is nearly as scary as some people make it out to be. In fact, I think he belongs in this tier here. AJ Green, whether he plays or not, get the fuck out. Julio Jones, I'm going to rank as if he's not playing. If he plays, he'll be in this range with the risk of the injury. I think Robinson gets a bit of a bump up over some of these other streamers. If there's ever going to be a week for Hilton, he's coming off a decent one. And as we saw with Hollywood Brown this week, the Bengals give up the second most to outside wide receivers, which is where Hilton lines up the vast majority of his plays. So I can put him in here. Still 13 spots below ECR, but now we're in like pretty ugly territory. Say this wraps up like the guys I would want to stream. Get out of here, Curtis Samuel. No interest. I mean, Beasley's had that high floor, and they're going to need to throw it all day, so I can see that. See Pascal being a viable streamer. Marvin Jones I hate, but, above these options, yes. I think Godwin's a due back, so let's rank him as if he's playing, which would be right. Say here for Godwin, should he play? Top 13. If he sits, we'll course adjust. Though whoever draws Jair Alexander he's been a monster shutdown. I think Preston versus the Jets has some streamability, so I'm just going to sneak down here and think, like, who could I stream? You're looking for a big play, but you could get it from Marquez. That's about all I'm seeing in terms of streamability. Maybe Alshon plays, but yeah, I'll be Xing out a lot of these names. Not Bird, though. I kind of actually like Bird. Let me get Bird back in here. We'll have to come back to him. But yeah, those are, hopefully you have guys within this top 55. Let's go on to tight ends and answer some of your questions while we wait for that to load. Again, here's your defenses versus wide receivers. Again, shocking how good the Panthers have been against wide receivers and the football team. Like, who's on their secondary? Nobody. Rams make sense. You got Ramsey, but who's there for Washington? Oh, man. Packers surprisingly good, too. Interesting stuff in terms of points allowed. But let's go to tight ends, points allowed. I think the Saints are the top, but they're on bye this week. So, shocker, Falcons are the next. Who would you rank higher rest of season, Jefferson or Crowder? I have Crowder just slightly higher. Like, of course, the upsides with Jefferson and the sex appeal of, like, the young rookie I like, but Crowder just, again, every single week. If there's one thing Gase actually does well, it's scheming volume and volume and volume for his slot guys. Look at what Landry used to do under him. So I like Crowder, especially in PPR. Let go of John Brown or Higgins for Claypool. I'd let go of either. And I'd probably, let's see what John Brown does tonight, but probably John Brown over Higgins. Pretty close, though. Only noticeable one would be Fuller on the football team secondary. Yeah, and we saw the Rams guys go kind of crazy against them too. So I don't buy that one, Mitch, at all. 10-team PPR is Justin Kelly or Tunyon droppable for Clayton or Freeman. I'm guessing you mean Claypool. And I would say either are drop. Tunyon I love. I'm not dropping Tunyon, but Kelly I would drop for Claypool. Freeman, not so much. You got Kamara, Montgomery, Gordon, Drake. And after Kamara, kind of, Wide receivers are Thielen, Godwin, John Brown, Hollywood Brown. So you could use yourself a good wide receiver. I would definitely go get myself Claypool there. Respect the name. Who did I mess up there? Let me know, fella. I didn't mean to disrespect anyone's name. All right, let's look at tight ends. Falcons, most generous that you'll be playing this week. The football team right up there. So Ingram, maybe he bounces back. The Eagles have gotten pulverized by tight ends, as we saw with Kittle and some others. Jaguars, a cakey matchup. believe they are getting. Let's go in and see who we got here. I feel like Buffalo's been a top matchup. So Kelsey. I think Kelsey's kind of in a tier above Kittle while we watch this team kind of struggle. Now the Rams, I feel like the Rams are good against everything in the pass game, including tight end, a bottom 10 matchup. Better against, more favorable matchup rather for tight ends than receivers. But yeah, let's keep going. Eagles get, Mark Andrews has to be up there, top 4 matchup. So we can go up there with Kelsey. That's about it. I would say Kittle and Jonnu kind of by themselves here. We'll see what John does tonight, but I fucking love that matchup. And we'll get there eventually, it seems. I would bump Ingram above Ertz. Ertz is just trash. Baltimore, are they any good against tight ends? Not that it really matters. Middle of the pack. So we can only go so far down on Ertz, considering how he should be so much better. Schultz takes a hit this week. I think Hawkinson deserves to be ranked above these guys. He didn't mess up. We got to respect Crowder over Justin. I got you. There we go. I mean, telling you number 1 tight end? Shoot. Get him up in your top 7. Why is like the Jets and Dolphins guys ranked so low this week? Gesicki's been a monster. I would say these guys. I would put Kittle. Okay, I'll put Kittle with the elite. Okay, I can't not because he could just blow up at any point. Other tight ends we are looking out for. How is Jimmy Graham's having that like renaissance year? A bunch of touchdowns every week. I'm down on Higbee. Not looking to get him in this week. Gerald Everett's kind of outperforming him these last few weeks. Got Jimmy Graham, Carolina. I do like Ebron. I think Cleveland's one of the top matchups, right? Yeah. Certainly in terms of receptions, top 2. Yardage right in the top 5. Cleveland a good matchup for sure. Surprisingly, the Bears are a very generous team for tight ends compared to everywhere else. Broncos, not that the Patriots have anybody you're interested in. Arizona, Dallas, not that the freaking Falcons or rather the Cardinals have anyone you're interested in. Washington football team, we got Ingram. The Titans face who this week? Who's John who got? Okay, so Darren Fells for a desperation streamer. Can see it. I think Hayden Hurst, the stats haven't been quite great, but the role is there. And then any others? I mean, Trey Burt. Maybe Irv Smith against Atlanta, the second most. He might be my stream of the week, Mr. Irv Smith, out there in 80% of the leagues. Ran a bunch more routes this week than he has in quite some time. Brait seeing some good involvement. Maybe it's Kyle Rudolph who benefits. I'll rank both Minnesota guys a little bit higher. Let's see here. Maybe Jordan Akins. Can't really trust any of these like Colts just because it's like a 3-headed nightmare. I would kind of cut this off. We'll wait for that 1 second. Not a great option, but I'll get Rudolph in here. Bam. So 23 tight ends. You should be able to find one in that bunch. I would say. Let's see, just make sure there's nobody I'm overlooking. Yeah, it gets pretty ugly afterwards. So yeah, clearly lower on Higbee, Schultz, higher on Gesicki for whatever reason, and then Tunyon. I think those will kind of shake out as the week goes. Let's get to our defense, figure out our streamers, and get back to your questions. Man, did I make a mistake? I dropped P. Williams last week. I don't think so. I dropped him too. So I'm not, had a great game, but also the right matchup for a great game. Playing against like a third string corner for San Fran. He'll have his decent days, Anthony, but I'm not. No, I wouldn't be losing sleep over. It depends who you dropped him for, I guess, but no. Noah Pringle, with Dak going down, options in 12-team leagues are scarce. Planning on Herbert. I would say pick up Herbert for sure. And I think Dalton, yeah. I mean, Arizona, not that ferocious of a secondary. And those other guys have some brutal matchups other than Noah. I see Cousins on that list. Cousins gets Atlanta, who has surrendered over 30 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So I wouldn't trade. I would get Cousins and I would get Herbert. And Herbert can be like your every week guy. Cousins can rotate in these types of matchups, and this is the type of matchup Cousins was born for, Noah. So Cousins for this week, Herbert season long. Claypool, Shenault, Mike Williams on the wire. Where do you rank the rest of them? Rank all three? I would go Claypool, then Williams, then Shenault, but I love them all three. And I would agree I'd drop Ayuk for any of them as well. But Claypool, Williams, then Shenault. Williams with that hamstring injury, a little scary, but man, to have a rocket arm like Herbert to unlock him finally, love it. Love all of it. All righty. To our defenses. I mean, my defense number one last week was the Patriots, and Locke should be back, so a little bit less favorable of a matchup. Sarah Riley, here we go. Is Ertz really worth starting? It's more about how barren that tight end position is than the fact that I like Ertz. And he's had two brutal matchups in a row against some good coverage linebackers. That being said, I mean, no, he has not been proving his worth. So, like, who's your other options, I guess, is what it comes down to. Because ultimately, exactly, that's the case, is who's there for you, especially with bye weeks right now. He should rebound at some point. I'm a fan of some fake football, get out of here with your soccer stuff. Thanks for tuning in, but I don't know a thing about that. I'm not going to pretend to or act like I want to. All righty, Colts against Cincinnati, a good matchup. I mean, we just saw the Ravens smash this team. As good as Burrow is, can certainly turn the ball over. I like the Steelers too, to get to Baker, a dinged up Baker. These are like my top four. Rams, what did they have, 10 sacks last fucking week? Great defense right now. I like the Giants more than I like Washington. I don't like Kansas City against a Buffalo team that can put up points with the best of them. I like the Dolphins even more as a streamer. Just dominated a San Fran team. It gets pretty ugly after, at least you got two teams that are widely available in the Giants and the Dolphins. Because after that, it's, Washington can get to the passer, so they might be slightly intriguing. So some ugly defensive streamers could be decent plays this week. But after that, maybe the Cardinals get to Dalton and he turns it over a little bit. I think Goff, the 49ers, hopefully they get some people back this week. The Bucs have just been so steady, but Green Bay is the worst possible matchup you could ask for. And then it's like, I just don't see anyone down here. I mean, the Vikes D played a good game against Seattle for the most part until the end. They crumbled. If Minshew is without Chark, I'd like these guys a little bit more. I think the Broncos deserve some consideration depending on if it's Cam or not. If it's Cam, nope. But if not, then they could go right in here. But yeah, you got 15 options here. So you should be all set, right, between these top 15. So let's quickly hit our kickers. Get your any last questions you guys have in. Then we'll wrap this thing up. Rodrigo has to be towards the top of your kicker dreams, right? Joey Sly, though, getting it done. I like Younghoe. Is Greg the leg going to take a hit or actually get helped by no Dak, less touchdowns? Probably helped. Prater, always a great option. Like Steven G. I think Zane's a little tricky here because I think they're just going to put up touchdowns. Jason Sanders has been sneaky beast. Doesn't miss. That offense puts up points. So that seems about right. I think Boswell belongs in the top 10 or top 12 rather. Fairbairn. This kind of wraps up like your startable guys. Anybody down here? Bullock. I mean, Indy's one of the best defense, so I'm not messing with that. Yeah, you got your top 15 kickers there. What else do you need from me? Alrighty, folks. Well, thank you so much for those of you who tuned in on this Tuesday as we get our rankings set every Tuesday. I, of course, am the Wolf of Roto Street at Roto Street Wolf. You can find all our work at rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves in the fantasy fullback tab. We pave your path to 2020 titles. We'll be back with our live stream tomorrow, 7 p.m.-ish. Also, Thursday Night Football for your sit starts before we kick off. You guys are the best. Thanks so much for spending your Tuesday with me. Anything you need, hit me up again at Roto Street Wolf. And best of luck if you need anything tonight. Hope you get your wins, and let's dominate Week 6, Wolfpack. I'm out.